Hey everyone, and welcome to a little Stranger Things Season 5 Part 2 special, the Hawkins Hybrid Labs. Yes, as you can tell in the background, there is going to be something strange going on in Jurassic World Evolution 3 today. We are building a little theme, kind of as an anecdote or a little, I don't know, something towards the series finale. It's not quite the finale. The last episode is still due to the 1st of January, as far as I understood. But yeah, we are here in Jurassic World Evolution 3, and I tried my best to build a theme from the upside down, which in my theory could be the area where some experiments on the hybrids have been conducted, you know. And first things first, has been a hard time to find out what I could use for some of these kind of snake-like tentacle thingies. Yeah, it's been hard. There's not really that much organic stuff in the game. We don't really have nice roots or anything like that. So, yeah. But before we start, credit due where credit is deserved. I did not build this building myself. This is from JWE. Here you can see all the details, including the share code from the workshop. I did use this thing as a base building, but obviously I have changed quite a lot of things. But I thought, you know, why should I do this myself if someone already has done such a great Hawkins lab building? And you know, it's been very straightforward that I wanted to use this building simply because, you know, as I had the idea of calling it Hybrid Labs, I was like, you know, that's gonna be done. Also, what's pretty sick is like with the new swarm tool, you get this kind of mist effect. I wish, you know, we were able to have the mist effect without trees or anything, so I could just use dead trees and stuff like that. We unfortunately don't also have VFX effects that would help us to, you know, cast mist wherever we needed. So I tried my best to kind of replicate that here. And then I went on to build certain things, you know, that you would expect in the upside down. And I'm starting with a bit of a security fence, and due to the last pack, we can use a couple of rundown pieces, which is pretty cool, you know. The swarm pack did not really necessarily spark my inspiration for the Stranger Things build, but when I was searching for pieces that I can use, I figured that a lot of the items in the pack will be super helpful when it comes to, you know, making sure this build hits home. And I initially wanted to also release it yesterday, but my stupid brain with all the timings and stuff, I thought the Season 5 Part 2 is going to be released on Friday European time night, but it was actually Saturday morning it would have been, but it was actually Friday morning. So yeah, here's me sitting doing the recording, doing the voiceover, and I was like, oh, well, I could have just released that yesterday. Anyways, I hope you still enjoy this little bit of, you know, Stranger Things. I still don't know what's going on then in the second part, you know. I'm kind of like not a big fan of this kind of separation of episodes and stuff, but well, I think that's just the time we're living in, you know, with all the series on different streaming networks. It's always the same. As for the build today, I'll upload this to the workshop, obviously, but let me just tell you, it is just a scene, okay? It's nothing in particular functional. It's just something strange to look at, I guess, and I just wanted to create the feeling of the upside down and doing a bit. This is, by the way, in the secret map, which is not so secret anymore, obviously, as the game is out for longer, but this is the map where you're back to the manor, and where like some of the secrets of the trivia has been revealed in here, at least in the campaign of Jurassic World Evolution 3. I just thought it's a fitting map because it is pretty dark per default, even though I'm building here on daytime, makes sure, but you know, to see certain things. But at the end of the day, this is just me, I guess, choosing the right map for that. It doesn't really matter because as Hawkins, you know, the city in the US would also work as like a US map, but I chose this one simply because I felt like the overall coloration and stuff would work. Again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because you can also change the coloration in the game to every biome you wanted to build in, so that's fine. I was just testing. So here I'm spamming a lot of things on the ground to make the ground also look broken and stuff. Again, it's all just for the theme, and I figured this looks kind of cool to make this kind of road over here leading to the labs, and nothing of it is in particular realistic to the series or anything, you know. I just wanted to kind of take the inspiration of it, and as you can see, I was using these, what's that, kind of air vents, air duct kind of things to kind of create the tentacles. I also had like a different version out of, what is that, tubes or anything like that, but all of them just didn't really work the way I wanted. I later on figured a method of a piece that kind of worked the way I wanted it to. And what I also figured during the build is something that didn't really annoy me too much before, but started to annoy me now, is really the fact that the scaling in this game is very limited in comparison to the Planet Coaster 2 scaling. Like, most of the scaling is really just from 50% to 200, so that would mean 0.5x to 2x, which really isn't a big range and doesn't really change much about your build. And I really would have hoped, or I do hope in the future, they're about to fix it. Now, as for the build, I wanted to make like a typical kind of military entrance here to the building, where you have this, you know, kind of security gate house at the beginning, just where you have that one security guard sitting, which and basically every series is like the most annoying and unnecessary person, because either the person is going to be killed or the person is actually just sitting there and failing to do their job because of letting everyone in. I guess that it's just like what everyone would do in these series and whatever. So security people in these little houses most likely are not having plot armor whatsoever. So yeah, I still wanted to build like a little house like this, just like making sure we have an implied little hut over here. Again, just for the looks of it, I didn't really mean to make anything of this functional. I just wanted to use a couple of hours I had after Christmas and so on to spend in here and make a little something, you know. I guess that is it. Sometimes this is enough, I guess, just to let out the creativity, let out the ideas you have maybe in mind. And I personally always find this super important for me personally. Like, when there are ideas in my head and they're unfinished or not tested at least, I start to be impatient and I start to get a little bit annoyed by that, so I have to let them out somehow. But yeah, here you can see I'm starting to rip apart the wonderful building Jemmy did for a good reason. We obviously need a gate to the Upside Down, or in our case, as we're not in the Upside Down, this would be a gate back into, well, the other world, or in maybe just a different world, as some fan theories go. I don't know, but like, I wanted to have one of these kind of iconic gates over here, and making sure that this is featuring the most iconic Stranger Things idea of this red glowing gate and having the tentacles come out of it. I also then figured that one of these decals here, the kind of ripple cracks in the ground, looks really cool as like a reddish crack in the wall in the house. Like, that looks as if the whole house is about to break out and open a gate to the other Upside Down. Is it dimension? Is it world? You never know, but I think that works. Also, I found some really cool music on Epedemic Sound, which is the music provider I'm using, and it's been very fun to build this little something over here. I obviously enjoyed this quite a bit. So yeah, you can definitely tell that this build turned out much better than I expected at the beginning. These are the pieces I then figured make up for a very nice tentacle effect. They are relatively short, so I needed to make weird versions out of these tentacles, but it just kind of works, specifically when I start to add the lights in. You know, at the beginning it looks a bit weird, but as soon as I'm starting later on to add the lights and make sure that I play a little bit with the overall viewing area and so on, like the viewing you have from the entrance, I think that looks really cool. I use these light panels here because they emit some really cool light, but not too much, and then you have this kind of glowing red there in the middle. I'm using the group later on also to make sure that these the frames of these ceiling lights are not really that visible anymore, because at the beginning, as you can see, it's a bit annoying, and I was just using the capture mode all the time to see how it's looking at night, so I don't always need to go to the menu and then fix it back in, you know. That is something important. However, I want to use that little moment before it's getting super excited to give you a note of the sponsor of the channel. Because as you should know by now, this is Instant Gaming, and Instant Gaming is a wonderful platform because A, it frees me a little bit from the nasty views of YouTube, and it gives me a bit of stable income. The only thing is I need you to get yourself a game and make yourself happy, because you can. On Instant Gaming, you can type in whatever you want and then download a game, a pre-order, or even in-game currencies, just like, you know, for PlayStation and whatever, Steam currency. You can just get it there for a good value, even reduced, and also obviously your favorite DLCs fees and whatnot. You'll find everything in there. The customer support is totally fine. Everything is legal. And if there's any issue, you can just hit me up myself, and I'm gonna get to my contact person, and we're gonna sort that out. So make sure that you grab yourself a wonderful game. You help me reach my targets. You yourself have given you a great game. Well, that's a win-win, I should say. And until then, well, we should continue with our wonderful build. Again, just like a little private, more personal note, Instant Gaming as a sponsor is super helpful because it helps me to not look at the views too much and do little builds like this, you know, every now and then. If not, I would have need to focus a lot more on making stable views work in a way, and so I don't need to care that much, and I can just make sure that I, explore my creativity a bit more. So that is a wonderful thing, to just keep doing stuff like that. Anyways, you can see I'm also adding a lot of different lights here and making sure I change the lights. By the way, if you saw a bit of weird camera work, not sure what it is. I still have some issues here with the free camera in Jurassic World Evolution 3. It's not the same as in the Planet game. Sometimes it's like really weird and jaggy and just jumps from A to B without any real reason. And I wanted to use that floodlight to make it super reddish over here, but apparently you cannot change the light emission of this light. It always casts a floodlight bright white, which is weird. So I went on with my favorite neon stripes over here because they make a wonderful indirect glowing light. Actually, it's a direct light, but it's like a glowing light, and it lights indirectly the other stuff very nicely. It looks a bit odd on daytime. Everything looks a bit odd on daytime. It's like a fully night scene I built over here, so don't you worry. I am fully aware of that, but I needed to test around a couple of things, and I figured also I need to change the lights in here. It's a bit of an odd thing that I can't, like in Planet Coaster you could time the lights, so you could really make that cool light flickering effect. That would be fun. You can't do this in here, so I needed to find a way around this, and the way around this was just to make the whole scene appear as if every red light is now done red because of the gate opening around it. So making sure that we have a bit of lights going on. As you can see, I then found this wonderful light over here that made the best glowing effect, and so you can see from a distance it starts to look really cool. Last but not least, I just cleaned up the scene a little bit with that ground pattern over here, making sure everything looks a little bit more finished when you look at it. And then it was about already time to throw in the dinosaurs about-ish, but I just figured to just place a couple of things down. Some of the items in the game work particularly nice for this kind of Stranger Things appeal. We have this kind of cool caravan over there. The truck fits in, some of the storages and stuff for the military area. Like, it really works well. I didn't need to build so much myself. That was kind of helpful, to be honest, also time-wise. But yeah, it's been a whole lot of fun to build this. And then I figured these kind of tentacles over here, they look the best, so I scattered them around the ground a little bit to make the look of all these tentacles being around a bit more. I wanted to make that kind of huge wall that we have in Season 5, like inside of the Upside Down. But I just figured I don't really have the right pieces to do that, and all I tried didn't look good. So I ended up not doing it and just went for a bit of a nice theme over here, which you will see in the cinematics worked out freaking well. I am pretty happy about this, and well, there's not that much more to say. It's kind of a rather short episode today. Again, you can download this from the workshop if you fancy doing so, but now let's have a look at some of the wonderful cinematic shots I have in here, because that showcases very nicely indeed how the whole scene ended up looking. And again, I'm super proud of it. It's super nice, and for now I'll leave you alone with some Stranger Things music. And if you like the content, you want to see more of that in the future, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I would be very happy about that. Until then, have a good time and enjoy watching. Bye.